Hell yeah, was that loads of fun?
That was so much
Was
fun.
that sick?
I went around the block 3 times, got myself back from the car park. I didn't die.
That was sick. That was
Hell
sick.
yeah.
Hey guys, so it's going to be a little bit of a quicker video today than the usual longer videos, and I'm basically documenting the process of going from never having sat on a bike to passing my CBT, buying my first bike and getting out on the road. So I'm still like a complete beginner. I've been out on the road probably 5 times or something now, but I just kind of want to show you, just as a regular newbie, kind of how that process looked like. So I never intended on getting a bike ever, to be honest. I always had this thing in my head of like, nah, they're way too dangerous. I'm too afraid of them. I don't trust other people on the road, and I just kind of had no interest in having one. Other than if I ever saw it was always a Ducati Scrambler, like Cafe Racer, that I would look at and go, maybe one day a bike. That bike in particular would always pique my interest a little bit. But still, I never kind of planned on getting one. Now, I'm also not a driver yet either. I do actually have a car. I kind of part own it with my boyfriend, and I convinced him to get it with me. We bought it off my brother because it's one of my favourite cars, an Audi TT. It's always been one of my favourite cars. Pod, come here. Um, but I haven't passed my driving test yet, so that's kind of something I'm working towards now as well. I have my driving theory, but I think I grew up in London, and I kind of just got used to always using public transport everywhere. So I've been a bus plebeian for quite a while, and kind of just got used to that. And with driving, as much as I kind of thought I'd love a car and it would just be handy to get about, I just never got around to doing it because I was like, it was expensive. It was, to be honest, I found driving lessons really, really boring. And I just kind of I wanted to be past it and already know it and have it all in my muscle memory, and I just couldn't be bothered to ever go through the process of doing it. Um, but yeah, something sparked my interest pretty recently, to be honest. It was only about 3 months ago that I was like, maybe I should get a bike. It probably, part of it was so my friend and my boss at work, who owns the shop I work in, um, she said she was thinking of getting a bike. And then part of me thought, okay, that'd be quite cool if we both had them and we could like go out on days out together and stuff. And my boyfriend rides bikes. So, and my dad's a biker, and his dad, my boyfriend's dad, is a biker. So I see bikes a lot, and I kind of just thought, do you know what? Maybe let's see, let's look into it. And now I'm the sort of person who just, I will, as soon as I get an idea to do something, I will basically just go and book it there and then, and I will start looking at gear. I started looking at motorbikes pretty much straight away, and I just get the idea in my head and I just have to run with it. So, pardon me, I booked my CBT test. But I booked my CBT on a manual straight away, and I'd never sat on a bike before, ever, not been a passenger or anything. Um, but it seemed it was possible to just go from that to booking a CBT on a manual. Um, and I kind of thought, well, if you're able to book it, it must be possible. So I booked that up. I watched a ton of YouTube videos on how the gears work, how the clutch work, everything, like just how to move a manual bike. So I watched a lot of stuff leading up to my CBT. Um, and I think I assumed that on the day of the CBT, you'd be on the bikes for about at least 3 to 4 hours practicing, learning it, moving around a car park or whatever space it was in, before going out on the road. And it turns out on the day that you're actually only on the bikes for about an hour and a half. So I got there. I obviously I've never been on a scooter before at this point, never been on anything like that. So I was literally getting on from scratch and pulling away on a motorbike, which is quite scary actually when you realise the throttle and everything, it's all in your hands. No one's on it with you like in a car when you're learning to drive. No one's on it with you, so anything you do wrong, you're on your own basically. So yeah, so did that, got on the bike, pulled away. That was a bit scary at first, but managed to sort of start getting the bike going and everything, and moving around the car park. Unfortunately, I haven't got any footage of that one because it was my first CBT and I wasn't sure if I'd be allowed to film or anything like that. And I was so thinking about the CBT itself that I didn't get round to asking them if they would mind me filming or not. So I didn't film anything on that day, unfortunately. But essentially, this is how it went. So I found the bike very jumpy in gear one. It kept sort of bunny hopping, and the throttle felt very sensitive to the tiniest little movements, like, and you get a lot of like engine braking. So yeah, I did find getting on the bike initially, just even getting it running smooth around the car park was quite hard. The part that felt pretty easy was the balance. So like I didn't feel like I was gonna tip off of it at any point, or um um yeah, like lose my balance while steering or anything like that. That felt pretty stable and easy. Um but we moved on pretty quickly to like maneuvers, little maneuvers. And that involved like clutch control. So like I believe they called it slipping the clutch. So like not letting the clutch out fully, keeping your revs at a kind of set point, and then using the clutch to speed you up or slow you down based on how much you let it out. But yeah, and then using the back brake to kind of stabilize you and slow you down, to do these small maneuvers. And I think I just found on the day that it's a lot to memorize for a complete beginner, because we ended up, yeah, being on the bikes probably for about an hour and a half in the end before it was like decided whether you'd go out on the road or not. And for a complete beginner, especially maybe as a non-driver as well, so I have driven cars, like I've done a handful of lessons here and there over the years, um, but I don't have like kind of clutch control, gear changes, and all that kind of imprinted in my muscle memory yet. So that probably didn't help me, because even though it's like the controls are obviously very different on a bike, you probably get used to hearing when a gear needs to change, getting used to like clutch control and kind of how slowly you've got to let a clutch out and things like that. So yeah, that probably didn't help. But at the point that I was still just getting used to moving the bike round, we would have already moved on to the next exercise. So we were doing little like weaving between cones, figures of eight, things like that. And yeah, I just didn't have the muscle memory yet to do that kind of clutch control and remember to use a back brake. So with my foot, it's very much like you are literally using every limb for a different purpose. And as a beginner, that's quite hard to think about all at once. So yeah, I found the little like weaving out the cones, that was quite difficult, just because I couldn't control the speed of the bike particularly well yet, and not like bunny hopping and things like that. I did a couple of figure of eights, and that was a bit awkward at first, but slowly that settled in. But unfortunately, what happened on the day, and this is not to put down the place I learned. The place I learned was really cool. My instructor was awesome. He was really, really nice. But unfortunately, for some reason, I got taken off the bike I was on, and that bike was given to someone else who turned up for a private lesson, I think, and I was swapped onto a different bike. But the bike I was swapped onto, I was told basically don't stall it because it's playing up a little bit, and it was the same model of bike, but it was an older version. It was an older year, and so it felt very, very different to ride from the one I was on. And in that short amount of time that I was on the bike, it meant I had to get used to changing to a new bike, and how the clutch felt on that one, how the throttle felt and everything. And that threw me a bit, so I had to like acclimatize to that new bike. But then unfortunately, as they said, don't stall it, I was gonna stall it, especially now knowing I shouldn't stall it. So after a little while of riding it, I did stall it and it didn't start again. So I had to be swapped onto another bike. And I think the bike I was swapped onto after that was another bike, not the first one that I was originally on. So that felt different again, and I felt like I had to acclimatise to that one again. So over the course of the hour and a half, it was a lot to take in at once. And while I did get to the point that I was riding around on a bike, I got up to second gear. I was like, we were doing like little U-turns and stuff, and some of those were going well, some of them not so well. It was a lot, and it was a little bit overwhelming with the idea of going out onto the road. So my instructor obviously said, I wasn't ready to go on the road, and to be honest, even if he had, I wouldn't have done it. I was not ready to control a bike like that out in public on roads where I would put myself and other people in danger. So even if he had said I could, I wouldn't have done it that day. And so the idea was I would either go and get some lessons, and then come back and retake that manual CBT, or retake a CBT on a scooter and get a scooter, a twist and go. So this is what I did. Basically, I'd already decided kind of what bike I wanted at that point, like at my first little 125, manual 125, which I'll put up a photo of. I ended up buying my bike after that first CBT, even though I didn't pass it, knowing that I did still want to have a manual. So I found the bike I wanted, I went and bought it, and then I had to wait about a month to do my next CBT. But the route I decided to take, and I'm not saying anyone should do it this way, only if you think it's right for you to do it this way. I just felt for me, this is the kind of the way that made the most sense for me to do it, was I felt like all I needed was more time on the bike. Like I understood how the gears worked, I understood how the clutch worked, I understood with the brakes and what my different limbs were meant to be doing and all that kind of stuff. And so I decided instead of going and taking lessons, which would be like hour lessons, I felt like what I needed was just time on a bike. So the way I decided to go about it was to rebook my CBT straight away, which ended up being about a month later, but to take it on a twist and go automatic scooter, because you can pass on a scooter on an automatic, and the CBT still allows you to ride a manual, as long as it's under 125cc, 125 or under. Now, like I say, I'm not suggesting that that's what other people should do, because you should get all the training that makes you safe to go out. So if you don't feel confident to go and get on a manual after passing an automatic, because they are very different, at least to me they felt very different, then don't just go and book a CBT and do an automatic and then go and buy yourself a manual. I only did it that way because I'd already sat on a manual and learned kind of the basics of how to get it moving and how it functions. And my plan was to get my bike, pass on an automatic. Now I'd already sat on a manual, and then go and basically ride it around the car park near where we live, because this car park is fairly big. It's got some inclines, so I could do some hill starts, and it's often completely empty. So yeah, so I did that. I went back a month later and I took my CBT on an automatic and I passed. That was really fun. I actually really enjoyed the automatic. It was odd in the bike shape is very different. So you're, rather than sort of straddling the bike, you're sitting with your legs kind of forwards like you're sitting in a chair. And I actually found the balance of that a lot harder than on the manual bike. But yeah, I've got some clips I'll add in, because I did ask them if I could film some on that day of me going around on the scooter, which my instructor kindly did for me.
I'm not getting any power.
Right, pull the brake in really tight. Now press the button. Okay, cool.
Yeah, that was that day. We went out on the road. It was pretty scary, to be honest. Knowing that you're fully in control and you've got to take it out in public where there's cars, and just move this thing about and not fall off, not yeet it across the road, that kind of thing. So yeah, we went out for a couple of hours, I believe. We did an hour, then took a break, and then went back out for another hour. We went around a load of country lanes. We did like roundabouts. We did like some more built up areas, so around a bit more traffic and things like that. And I had a great time. I really, really loved it. And that went all well. That went all good. I kind of felt like with the automatic, because it was so much easier to ride and a lot less to think about, it freed up my brain to actually think about the road. And now I think I trusted myself to do this a bit more, because I'm quite a perceptive person. So I used to work with horses, and I'm very like aware of things that can go wrong. Even as a passenger in a car, I'm like a backseat driver. Like I'm constantly looking for what other cars are doing coming out of junctions, even though I'm not driving. So like, I often don't sleep in the car if someone else, like as a passenger, because something in my brain switches on as a driver and wants to watch the environment. So yeah, doing the going out on the road on the automatic allowed me to do that more, because I wasn't thinking so much about how the bike functions and controlling the bike, because it was just a lot easier. So yeah, passed on that day. And then it was just a case of then going home, getting my bike set up. We actually went on holiday for 10 days, like not long after that. So I didn't get to go on my bike till we came back from holiday. I've added in a clip. So this is one of the reasons I couldn't do it. Because when we got my bike that I bought back from the shop, my boyfriend who rides, he got some insurance on it and decided to take me out as a passenger on it, just so I could kind of have a go of going out on the road and as a passenger, and just enjoying my bike in that way till I could ride it. And as much as I'm embarrassed to add this clip in, I dropped my bike when we were getting it out of the garden to take out on that first day.
You can turn it round onto the road. Amazing.
And looking back at the clip, I don't even know how I managed it because my bike isn't particularly heavy and I'm quite tall. I'm like 5'9", 5'10". I think I was just nervous and I backed myself in against the wall a bit too much and I turned the wheel in a way that just tipped its balance away from me and it just went down. It went down and none of my body weight against it could hold it up. And as you can hear from the clip, as soon as it hit the ground, listen out for a little dink because my brake lever snapped and shot across the garden. And that was like the day after we got it home. So that was really sad. I was absolutely gutted. But anyway, we took it out. In fact, I want to add something there for any newbies who want to start and want to get a bike. One of the things that made me nervous moving my bike about at the beginning, and I think contributed to me dropping it, was almost feeling like an imposter. So when you're surrounded by people who have ridden bikes for years and they're confident in moving stuff about, like I even felt strange touching my own bike. Like it was a weird thing to sink in of this is mine and I can move this round and I can get on it and I can I can handle it and I can do stuff with it. And so even just like backing it out of the garden, I kind of, there was this pressure of, and not even from other people, it's in my own head, right? But it was this thing of like, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm an imposter here. And in a weird way, whenever there was no one around and I was moving my bike, if it needed to just be shuffled around the garden or brought to the front to do something with it, like if I wanted to wash it or something, if no one was around, that kind of settled down a little bit and I felt confident in my own ability to move a heavy object, right? And I was fine and I had no issues where it felt like it was going to fall. I even sort of said, like, there's no way I'm going to drop my bike. This is easy to move around. But as soon as there were people with me, it was like I just feel like an imposter and I felt alien to be touching a motorbike and doing something with a motorbike. So I mean, that might not happen with you, but that's just something I noticed at the beginning. But yeah, anyway, so we got the bike out, half a brake lever, still rideable, just enough of a brake lever to still ride. So I got on the back and my boyfriend rode, and we actually decided to ride it to the Honda garage to go and buy a brake lever. Like that was going to be our first little trip out because there's one quite local to us. So we ordered that, got back on, and we were riding home, and we came around a roundabout, and all of a sudden there was this like bang and like clunk 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 clunk, and so we got round the roundabout and immediately pulled off into a little lay-by, like, oh my god, what has happened with the bike? And it turns out there was a 4-inch screw, like decking screw or something, sticking out of the back wheel that had gone in head first and was like hitting the chain and everything on the way round. So yeah, it completely took out our wheel. And yeah, that was on the second day we got it back. So pretty unlucky start with my bike. And then the recovery driver that came and picked us up and put it on the back of the van, on the back of the truck thing, he I won't name names or the company or anything, but he basically, getting it back off this truck bed, it was a good 3.5 foot drop down onto the road and on a slight incline as well. And he only set up one panel coming down off of the back of the thing to roll the bike down. So like a foot wide, maybe 1.5 foot wide ramp to bring the bike down on. And he decided to get on the bike and roll it off backwards, despite my boyfriend and my boyfriend's dad and me saying, no, let's not do it that way. That's not going to work because you've got nowhere to put your feet if it goes sideways. He decided not to listen and started going down backwards anyway, realised he was going to fall off, leapt off the bike while it was on the ramp and just let it go. Just decided, I can't hold this, I'm going to let it go. Somehow my boyfriend managed to grab the back of this bike as it was coming off the ramp and steady it enough that it didn't completely fly off the thing. But it fell off sideways, landed on its exhaust on the ramp sideways, and then landed on the road, mostly upright, so it didn't fall completely sideways. But I was like, I feel like I was just watching it all unfold in slow motion in front of me, like, my poor bike, like, this was my baby, right? You know, when you get, I'm sure bikers know, and if you get a new car and whatever, that it's like, you love your bike or you love your car, and watching it go through all of that in one day was actually quite heartbreaking. So yeah, all that happened. We got it back into the garden, and then it sat there basically until after we came back off holiday, because we didn't really have enough time to do anything with it until then. So yeah, we went on holiday, came back, got the wheel changed, took the wheel off. Ed's a mechanic, so he took the wheel off, and I sort of watched and learned how to do it with him. And we took the wheel, got the tyre changed, put the new brake lever on, and it was finally ready for me to take it out. So by this point, I was pretty rusty, because this was a month after the CBT I passed, and 2 months after the CBT on the manual that I didn't pass. So I'm a real beginner at this point still, and I'm rusty, and I'm quite nervous. But my plan was, if I can just get it around to the car park, which is like a 2-minute ride, 1.5-minute ride from my boyfriend's house around the corner. I was like, I just have to get it round there. If I go at a time when there's not much traffic, I know how the gears and the clutch and everything work. I just have to take it easy, even if I have to get it around there in second gear while there's not many cars on the road. We'll do that. As soon as I'm in the car park, I can practice then, and we're all good. Car park's empty, we're all good. So I rode it down the road to the end of the road, and you have to come out onto a bit more of a main road that heads to a fairly large junction. And I got it to the end of the road. That was fine. I managed to pull out of that road and onto the main road. There wasn't too much. There was not really any traffic, to be honest, at that point. Got it to the end, and then the lights changed at the junction, and I had to stop, and I was at the front. And in the time it took for the lights to change, I had a queue of traffic right behind me. And I was like looking with absolute terror in my like wing mirrors at all the cars lined up behind me, waiting for me to pull away. I stalled 5 times. 5. Because I know what I was doing wrong now. I was basically not giving it enough throttle. I was like afraid of the throttle. I'd never ridden my bike before as well, so this was the first time on my actual bike, and so I hadn't kind of got used to the feeling of the clutch and the throttle yet. And I was letting the clutch out too fast and not giving it enough throttle, and I just kept stalling, and every time I stalled I was panicking more and more, because I was like, there's cars behind me waiting to go. I've got to just get this bike moving. And so I was rushing it every time and trying to move, and then like bunny hopping forward when I'd stall. My boyfriend was next to me on the little island, the little island in the middle of the road, saying to me, "Come on, it's fine, just slow, it's easy, you got this." To which point I am freaking out, and I'm like, "It's not easy. I ain't got it. I need you to help me. I need you to do something." I'm like freaking out. So I pull the bike right up next to the island, turn it off, get off. We wait for all the traffic to go, and then we wheel it round there. Because the car park, I can see the car park at this point. And then we wheeled it round, finally got it in there. I'm like well stressed at this point. So I sit there for a bit, and then I'm like, okay, right, we'll just get on and we'll learn how to pull away again. So I did that, practice stopping, starting, just going around. There was no cars in the car park, so I was just doing little loops around. It's a fairly big car park, so I was just doing loops round.
And again.
Started just coming up in second gear so I could get a bit of movement going, and practicing a little bit of gear changing. And then basically it was like, okay, well, how am I going to get it back to his? Am I ready to, after what happened, am I ready to get back out on the road this soon? Am I safe to do it for other people as well? So he went back to his, walked back over to his, and I sat with the bike, and I was like, look, I'm gonna keep practicing. I probably practiced for a good 2-3 hours just around the car park. Practiced some hill starts because of the little inclines in there. Realised I could do it, and I was like pulling away uphill and everything. So I was like, look, I'll either leave the bike in the car park and we'll come back and get it later, or I'll manage to ride home. So I kept watching the traffic along the main road, seeing if it was like dying down a little bit as the time went on. And yeah, it finally got to the point where I was like, okay, I'm pulling away pretty well every time now. I'm not stalling the bike anymore. I'm pulling away on some hills, that's fine. And I'm moving about all right. I'm changing gear, even if it's just between first and second gear. I'm doing that okay, and I feel a bit more confident. And yeah, so I came out the car park, went around the little one-way system, and got all the way home. Didn't stall, didn't do anything. Got all the way back to his, sorry. And it was so much fun that I went around the block another few times and got him to film me coming back in. So yeah, that was that. And it was almost like as soon as I knew I could pull away properly and not just stall and not be able to move the bike under pressure of like traffic lights and other cars, the rest I felt confident and safe enough to do the rest of it. So yeah, I went around the block another 3 times, and then the next day I did the whole thing again. So I came out, went round to the car park, all smooth and everything. It was all good. Practiced a little bit in the car park. Came back out, did a couple of loops around the block again, and called it a day there again. And then I think it might have even been the day after that, I rode it home for the first time from my boyfriend's back to my house, which is about a 25-minute journey, and it was awesome. It was awesome. I took it easy. I was like really aware of things going on, not pushing myself. If there was like corners coming up, and I know these roads really well, so I knew exactly where I was going, knew the roads really, really well. Took corners a little bit easy, like, you know, if at any point I felt like I was unsure, I'd just let off the throttle a little bit. Take corners a little bit easier than you can easier than you can take them if you're experienced and you know what you're doing. Just to give myself, I just want to make sure every time I go out, I'm having a good experience and I'm not putting myself in danger. I'm not putting other people in danger. I'm not being an inconvenience to people on the road. And I kind of just broke it down into steps of like, I just have to take one road at a time. because the route that had to go was like, there's kind of places that I could pull over at any point if I was just struggling and needed cars to pass or whatever. So I was like, mentally, I will break it down into one road at a time. If I can make it along this road safely at the right speed limit, and watching for other cars, doing all my like checks and stuff. If I can just take one road at a time, it will all add up, and I will make it home. So that's what I've been doing. And I think the next day I got on my bike and I came back to where his is, and went to a motorbike shop there because I needed some bits, and then took myself home again. And then it was so much fun, I came back to his later in the evening to come and watch football. So like any excuse to get out on my bike. So yeah, that's basically what I've been doing from a complete noob to getting out on the road for the first times. I've added a little clip, or I will add a little clip at the end, of me just riding around. Unfortunately, I can't afford a GoPro right yet, like right this moment. So we've started the channel, and I'm just trying to catch up a little bit on getting like good recording equipment now. So I've got my phone, and I've been kind of doing everything on that, and I'm just waiting now to get to the point where we can pay for a proper recording setup, GoPro, all the correct mounts and stuff. Because yeah, the setup of the channel's been fairly expensive, like all the webcam, my headphones I needed, the CBT itself, the bike, everything, and all the other kind of little side quests I've been doing at the start of the channel. So yeah, unfortunately, I've not got any GoPro footage on my bike, but yeah, I'm gonna add at the end just some little footage of me driving away, up and round, kind of near where I live, on the bike. Please ignore the fact that I left my indicator on in this clip. I know I did it. I was like thinking about something else, and I was a little bit rusty because I've had a week off my bike because I've just been really busy. I was a little bit rusty when I got back on, and I left my indicator going because on bikes you have to cancel it yourself. It's not auto cancelling. So I know I did that, and I'm a little bit rusty, but yeah, that is that journey so far, guys. If you're thinking of getting a bike, yeah, do it. It's really cool. Be safe, but be really safe. Don't go into it feeling like you just want the biggest bike you can get straight away. It's serious business, and obviously it's not just yourself you're like putting at risk. It's you don't want to be a pain to other people on the road. But yeah, the independence it gives you and the fun it gives you to get out, and in a way for me it's similar to, if you've ever ridden horses, it's very similar in that you have to think about what you're doing. You can't be on the back of a horse, for example, and especially if you're like riding out and you're hacking out and everything, you can't be thinking about other things. You're in the moment. It's very like meditative as a process, because you're concentrating on what you're doing. You're looking out for things that could go wrong. It makes you very like present, and I think that's probably why lots of people find things like this really enjoyable, because it takes you away from anything you're worrying about. And I've found that with the bike too. It's like you have to be so present that it feels like freedom. It feels like escape from your worries. So yeah, that's one thing I feel like I'm taking into it, is like, don't let it become another worry. I want to have a good experience every time I ride. I don't want to crash. I really don't want to crash. I don't want to be hit. I don't want to fall off for a stupid reason, like just taking corners silly, or not seeing gravel or oil or something in the road and just coming off when I could have been careful and not done that. So yeah, I'm taking it very easy, learning, being really aware of what's going on the road and just having fun. And I would recommend people do the same. It's great, and you will love your bike so much. That's one thing I've realised is I just look at my bike and it almost has like a kind of, you sort of humanise it in a way, or it feels like a pet. It gets its own character. It gets its own sentience about it, where you just look at it and you're like, I just love my bike. So yeah, it's been really good, and that's pretty much everything I can think to explain about that process. So thanks for watching, guys. New challenges are coming. Everything's just in the process of unfolding, and me getting on top of everything. New recording equipment is coming soon, so I can start filming stuff properly. And yeah, that's everything. So thanks for watching, guys. Bye.